If you enjoy my videos, click the like button. It's the only way the YouTube algorithm really notices that I exist. Thank you. Hi guys, it's Quinn here, and I just wanted to discuss something that a few people have asked me to talk about. Now, the rumor that's been floating around, or the idea that's been going around, is that there's this 4 to 6 hour version of the first half of the Dune movie that supposedly got cut down into 2 hours and 35 minutes. And Jason Momoa apparently said something to the effect of he wishes Denis Villeneuve's original cut of the movie could be released instead. I did some research into this, and that's actually not what's going on here. Now, this is all coming from a New York Times interview with Jason Momoa, where he talks about having seen a preview version of the Dune movie. He says, "It was a cool movie. You know what they need to do? They need to make the 4 to 6 hour version of the first half. It's like, let's watch the 4 to 5 hour movie like a TV show. I can choose when I want to watch the whole thing. I want to see Denis' whole vision. I don't want it to be trimmed." So, like I said, a lot of people have taken this interview and they ran with it and they said, okay, there's this version of Dune that's 4 to 6 hours long, and we're not going to be able to see that version because the movie studios don't want a movie to be that long. I don't actually think that is what Jason Momoa is actually talking about here. I think the preview version of the movie that Jason Momoa saw was probably just the theatrical release, and he's talking about how he wishes there was a longer version. Because I just don't think there's any potential of Denis Villeneuve thinking from the beginning that he would be able to make a 4 to 6 hour version of the movie. And also the fact that he says 4 to 6 is indicative of the fact that it's non-existent. That version does not exist because he doesn't know how long it is. If you think about Blade Runner, the original cut of that movie was like 4 hours long, but the studio wouldn't go for that. He wanted to split the movie, but they didn't want that either. So they ended up just cutting the movie down to like 2 hours and 45 minutes or something like that. But Dune was originally conceptualized by Denis Villeneuve as a 2-part movie. He wanted to split it from the beginning. And he obviously would have known that he can't make a 4-hour movie from his previous experiences with, Blade Runner. So honestly, I think the movie was probably conceptualized as about a 2-hour-and-a-half movie because it just makes too much sense. If this movie is 2 hours and a half, and then the sequel is something like 2 hours and a half or maybe a little bit longer, that is enough time to sufficiently tell the story of the first Dune novel. I always applaud the Dune miniseries on the Sci-Fi Channel for getting the whole story essentially, and they did that in about 5 hours of time. I think 5 hours of time is enough to tell the entire Dune story. You don't really need a whole 5-hour first part. 4 to 6 hours would be ridiculous. You don't really need that just to tell the first part, and then you don't need like an additional 4-hour movie, in total 10 hours to tell the whole Dune story. I think that would kind of like stretch it out a little bit too much, honestly. So I really do think that what we have here is just a lot of really excited Dune fans just taking something that Jason Momoa just kind of said off the cuffs and just kind of like on the side a little bit too seriously. I don't think that there is a 4 to 6 hour version of the first half of Dune that exists. I don't think that that was the way it was conceptualized. I don't think Denis Villeneuve would write a 4 to 6 hour version of this script just to have to cut it down when he already knows he's going to make a second movie. And that is just my humble opinion on the subject. On some other news, there have been some new little clips of Dune involving different characters and involving bits of new dialogue that we hadn't previously seen in any other trailers. We got a Dr. Yui scene where he's like examining Paul, and he says to Paul that spice has psychoactive properties. Now in the trailer, if you remember, we did see like this glowing tree thing, and if you remember the books, there is kind of like a description of like a tree thing that's branching out in many different directions, and it's meant to represent the possible futures which Paul is now exploring. And it looks like that scene happens at a similar time. So it looks like Paul becomes awakened by the spice and he begins seeing that vision earlier in Denis Villeneuve's movie than it actually takes place in the book, which is a cool, interesting little fact. So I can't wait to see how that plays out. And come to think of it, I was shown a preview of some of the Dune scenes not too long ago, and one of the scenes that they showed us was the Thopter scene with the spice harvester. And in that scene, there's a slight change from the book. Paul goes out, and once he steps onto the sands and once he starts in breathing in the spice, he starts to kind of have visions and hear voices. It's like he's being awakened by the spice. So his spice awakening starts to happen, I think, a little bit sooner in the movie, like I said, than in the book, which is cool because that'll give them time to establish what it is and explain it a little bit more. But my favorite of these little previews that they've shown was the Jessica one, because in this one you really get to see Jessica as a fighter, the weirding way you hear Stilgar's voice saying, "You didn't say you were a fighter," and that's of course a scene in the book when he figures out that she can do the weirding way, which is the Bene Gesserit martial arts. And then also we have another clip of the Reverend Mother saying that the path has been laid and let's hope he does not squander it. It's very, very similar to the book where she's basically saying, yeah, the path has been laid out and you're just going to have to follow it. But there's doom that awaiting you on Arrakis, and she knows it. I always talk about how Jessica is such a highly important character on so many levels because all of this stems from her initial decision to disobey the sisterhood. All of this stems from the fact that she chose to have a son instead of the daughter that they commanded, and so they're just kind of leaving her to be resigned to her fate at this point, because there's really nothing that they can do at this point. Alright, so you can check out those clips on the official Dune Twitter page somewhere around there. I'll leave links in the description. That's all I got for you guys today. Make sure you like and subscribe for more Quinn's ideas. Thank you so much.